Oh, dear God. Okay. Yeah. 2 years later. Where's time going? I don't like this. And I know it's been 2 years, not just because I can read a calendar, but also because I moved into this house 2 years ago. And it was then I was moving in. A month later, I was reviewing Starfield. Life was coming at me fast. Here we are 2 years later. And I think we all expected to be somewhere a little bit different with Starfield. I've been playing it a lot lately just to kind of do a little bit of a recap, as I did last year when we did Starfield 1 year later. Year one was tough, but necessary. Bethesda received a lot of criticism. I think a lot of it they needed to hear in a widespread manner. And Starfield Shattered Space was teed up as the expansion that could turn the game around. More on that later. Year two, well, it's been nothing. No exaggeration. No updates outside of, like, I think a bug fix or two. Just some written statements from Bethesda saying, hey, we're working, and now a verbal one. You see, Bethesda recently dropped a video that was lightly detailing what's to come for Starfield in a spotlight of Tim Lamb's career. And it's funny because I saw people making videos reacting to this like it was a brand new confirmation that more Starfield content was on the way. And I think that just speaks to how dead this game was in 2025. There's been zero significant updates, and that's likely the case in 2026, but according to Bethesda, here's what's to come: a new story DLC, space gameplay travel that's going to be more rewarding, new game systems, smaller delights, and if you're to believe leaks and rumors from trusted sources, then there's a PS5 port and a Switch port on the way. So how are we looking 2 years later with this in mind and accounting for what Bethesda could do to try to turn this game around? We'll talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new here, you're into what's going on with Bethesda, consider subscribing. All right, because I don't want to be a negative Nancy here, I need to open with like one positive that did strike me the moment I fired this up. I was on Varun Kai and went, you know, Bethesda's art department just doesn't get enough credit, man. Even with Fallout 76 and my biggest hater phase of that game, I sometimes had to bend the knee and go, all right, that looks kind of fire. But hey, man, dropping down on this planet, seeing these visuals, I know it's not the highest fidelity, but it's that usage of color and weather effects that Bethesda's always been really good at. They're still great at. It really creates, for the planets that actually have communities and ecosystems, a tangible feel to them. And I love that in their games. And Starfield has a lot of those moments where I actually just stopped to take it all in. I mean, granted, I'm like one of those dudes who plays every game like an E3 demoist. If you catch my drift, like I'm always slow walking, slow panning the camera. I feel like I was indoctrinated by E3 demos in my teenage years, and like I just play games like that where I'm like, whoa, that's a slow walk moment. But hey, Bethesda gives me a lot of step out, slow walk moments. So I wanted to open with that because that is the first thing that hit me when I started playing this game for a little bit again. But I know a lot of people want to talk about the problems with the game because that's really where a lot of the conversation lies. You see, for me with Starfield, I like the game. I know sometimes it doesn't come across that way, but it's because there's that fight, that tug of war within myself where there's a lot that can be improved to be great. Starfield is a game that I was entertained by the 100+ hours I spent in it. I also haven't come back, and there also isn't that magic in Starfield like there is with other BGS games such as Fallout and Elder Scrolls, where I get whisked away and just have so much trouble putting down the controller. Like, Starfield is easy to step away from, and I think it's from how it's designed. My number one problem still is how exploration is handled. Not from the typical Maddie, oh, I want to wander experience, but it's because finding content in this game is literally impossible. When you fire it up and you want to pick up where you left off, or if you're ever daring to be in the mood to play some more Starfield, it is tough to find content. If you're looking for space content especially, good luck. It's like a needle in the haystack. You know, you're just going to jump from star system to star system and hope someone pulls up on you. It removes a core element of Bethesda's worlds, which is the world coming to you. It's a joy when you jump into a star system and crazy stuff is happening, but it's the fact that you can jump from multiple systems through multiple loading screens, hear that damn Starfield theme for the millionth time, and have like nothing happen across all of these systems. And in some cases where you're trying to do what I do, or hey, my fuel consumption is too high to jump across all these systems and you got to jump them one by one, it feels really tedious just hopping around star systems with, again, many of them having nothing inside them. I know part of that point's been beaten to death, but for me, it's about finding content, because For example, there is content within Starfield that I find quite good. I just usually think it's within a community or a town, which there is very little of in Starfield. For example, a good one that I found is actually a colony of clones of some of the greatest figures in history. You meet Genghis Khan, you meet Roosevelt. Like, it's awesome. It's such a really good idea. It's in a lot of ways, when you go to the facility that's connected to this whole quest line, almost like a Fallout vault. And I think if we put that exact quest line in a Fallout game, we'd be like, yo, this makes so much sense. So you have these moments in Starfield where it like clicks and you go, that's the good stuff I was looking for. The problem is finding it, because there's so many loading screens and so many star systems to jump between that it is a game, as we've said many a time, that desperately needs to be filled out, because I mean, the job's already done. You already have your tons of star systems. We already knew that was probably going to be an issue with the game. So there is no more of the, hey, what if they did 5 really dense star systems like they should have? Okay, they hit their goal of tons of star systems. Now you got to fill it out before you consider the job done. To me, if we're talking about Tim Lamb's smaller delights, this would be one of them. Just more communities of people, more individuals to talk to who aren't just like placeholder names or generic names, like actual characters, cool storylines like this that drive even it through mainly dialogue. Like, that stuff rules to me. I wish there was just more people to meet in Starfield, and that's crazy to say in a game so big. Other smaller delights for me would absolutely be overhauling the lockpick and the loot system. By that, I don't mean like changing every piece of loot in the game, but like, hey, when I try to lockpick a expert lock, have the loot reflect that, especially if your lockpicking minigame is going to be a real big pain in the ass. I don't mean to say that aggressively, but I cannot stand the digipicking system, and it's because I look at Bethesda and I could shake. If it's you, Todd, I could shake you for making that decision, because I'm like, you guys have the perfect lockpicking minigame across all your games in Fallout and in Elder Scrolls. There's a reason they're shared. It's because you just can't do it better. And you turn it into this shape-shifting minigame that takes so long that I literally ignore loot in this game, because I'm like, I cannot be bothered. Oh, someone's locked behind that door? That's like 5 minutes of my life I got to spend doing that. A small delight for me that would not fix the entire game, but would improve the quality of life, would just be doing away with the system, overhauling it. I know there's mods that just make all of them easy. That's what I usually install, because it is like, I know, a nitpick in the scheme of things, but God, dude, like, I hate that I have to avoid loot in this game, basically. I've already beat the dead horse on rare loot in the game, kind of like the Skyrim rare weapons and armor, where they have like unique models and unique properties. I know Shattered Space tried to push this a little bit. There were a couple of unique weapons. That was cool. You can actually see me using some of them in the gameplay, because to me, the reason these are important is not just to like find cool things, but when you come back, it's awesome just to sift through my arsenal and just toy around with a bunch of these crazy weapons that Bethesda has made before. And so where I really get hung up on Starfield is the "this is good, could be great" section, and why I just struggle to return to it, because it's always a tug of war within myself. For example, let's go back to space travel. I know this may sound like an unfair comparison because the game has been supported for almost a decade now, but look at the latest No Man's Sky update in Voyagers. Like, you can literally float out into outer space, but also build out your spaceship, and a lot of the interiors do remind me of Starfield, but also you can skydive out of your ships onto planets, and it features multiplayer. And it's all been free since launch, and it's been almost like 10 years, dude. Like, it's crazy what that game has turned into. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like No Man's Sky is suddenly my jam just to dunk on Starfield by any means, because, like, I don't know. I remember playing it around launch and then going back to it a few years later. I'm like, this is cool, but it's just not fully for me. Like, I think I just have full Mass Effect brain at this point. Like, someone give me a new Mass Effect game, for the love of God. But if Bethesda is making more rewarding space travel, to me, I am hoping, I don't know for sure, but just let us actually explore space. I think that would be more rewarding. Like if the walls between all these star systems were somehow removed and I could just fly to these other star systems. You could do something with a mini loading screen or whatever, something that shows what we're traveling through and that I could find unique, interesting stuff, something that keeps Starfield seamless as it can be. I know getting rid of all loading screens is a very big thing to ask for, but I think we got to get close to that for one of these parts of the world, whether it be on the ground or in space, whatever it may be. Starfield needs a flow. It is lacking that. And if you give it a flow where I can float around these star systems and I can find content, I think it'll be a lot easier for your new player base on PlayStation and Switch to get into. But rewarding is a little bit of a troubling word to me, not to make it negative, but it does come across that way to me because I think like the space gameplay in the terms of like shooting other ships is awesome. Like I find that to be the best part of the game. So I hope when he says rewarding, it means like that kind of space wandering experience. Now, continuing our recap of Starfield, let's get into official DLC. We got a lot of updates across the first year of Starfield. In the terms of major things to note, there were a couple of quest lines, like one let you become bounty hunter. It was released at the same time as a creation that would charge you money from Bethesda Game Studios, and it was way worse than the free thing you got because it was extremely short and overpriced. So it kind of overshadowed what was a decent quest line within Starfield. It was also a quick one, to be fair. But in the main highlights, we got the buggy. This was cool. It also controls a little bit weird, and that's strange to say because I feel like Bethesda really got the spaceship controls down. And ultimately, it is a great feature, but feels a little bit useless outside of Shattered Space because Shattered Space was built with this buggy in mind, so you could actually get in and use it, although I kind of just floated everywhere because the jump pack was way better anyway. But if there were more points of interest, I would actually get in my buggy and drive around, but since there's usually not, I don't use it often. Other things in the terms of official DLC, we got Shattered Space, and as I alluded to at the top of this video, for those who don't remember, this visually is awesome, but in the terms of everything else, it is the definition of a missed opportunity. It feels like Bethesda did not listen to fans, doubled down, made worse choices, and did not capitalize on any of the hopes fans had for this DLC, like providing more interesting exploration, providing more reactivity, sort of like Far Harbor did, which Todd did use as a comparison for this DLC, and I consider that one of Bethesda's best DLC ever, if not their best DLC ever. But Starfield Shattered Space, across not only reviews in terms of the overall score, but just for me personally, ends up being the worst DLC Bethesda has ever made. This is excluding DLC like horse armor or some of the settlement workshop stuff that you get in Fallout 4 that they would have you pay for. Sure, I'm talking about traditional Bethesda DLC, but that's pretty tough to do in finding a new low. And I know some will be unsurprised that Bethesda found themselves a new low, but for me, I was like, they're even in their worst state capable of way more than this. The good news is after this dropped, Bethesda did go silent, right? Like, I mean, they put up a fight. There were a lot of ugly quotes coming out of it, but then they went silent and put their heads down. And that's all we can hope for at this point, is that they listen and they respond well and understand what the mission was after spending, by the time it comes out in probably 2026, over a year on Starfield updates. One other thing to note, which is often overlooked with Starfield, and I get it because it's one of those things that if you're like deep in the community like me, you pay attention to, but if you're someone who's like already paid money for it and you're not crazy about it, then you're not really going to care. But creations have come a long way. Like we started with reselling Oblivion's DLC in Skyrim when this was first announced in I think 2017. And yeah, Bethesda rightfully got chewed out by everyone for that. But now you look at Starfield, you look at Watchtower, for example, and it's pretty sick to see how far it's come because it's a lot of what we hoped the system would be in the first place. New factions are introduced. You also are able to control your own fleet in this DLC. You can perform orbital strikes. There's a Doom-themed one, and granted it's a small one, but it's pretty great. And there are many more quest lines that are quite good. I think the problem that Bethesda runs into is right now they are still viewed like the optics on them are bad because they're still paid mods to many people. And I think Bethesda needs to put their muscle behind it to make it look and feel more official. Give them achievements. That is one of the marks of being an official piece of content. Give them marketing. give out review codes to both press and creators. Like, make this an important part of your content. Make it part of the thing that you see on the storefront when you look up Starfield. Make it official. Because right now, many of these pack great things, hell, even fix big issues with Starfield, like filling out its world. But all of us are left thinking, well, that's great, but that's not really Bethesda. It's like the extra step that's required of liking Starfield or liking Bethesda a lot, and then you can get into this. But if it's treated like official content and not just this kind of side piece, I think it can go a much longer way. So basically what we're left with 2 years later, after Starfield's been out on the market, is this. Whatever Bethesda delivers next will never be enough. And that's not me setting them up for failure, though it will sound like that. It's more so to say that the goal should be, this needs to feel like a fresh start for everyone, Xbox fans, and then your new players on PlayStation and Switch too. This needs to feel like a fresh start, worth believing in, kind of like No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky didn't turn things around in a single update, right? It started with a really good one, and they kept at it, and they kept plugging away for free. And hey, look at Bethesda, for example, with Fallout 76. I don't think any of us ever expected to be sitting on a video in a comment section talking and hearing the words, 76 actually isn't that bad, or 76 turned it around, and it not being the most crazy thing you've ever heard. Like, think of launch 76 and how hanging with it and doing consistent free updates has gotten them to this point. So they did their own little No Man's Sky moment, but here we are with Starfield, which I think can have its own moment. My only hope is that for deep into the future of Bethesda, it's just great at launch, and we don't need another No Man's Sky moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on Starfield 2 years later. Fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.